Ooh, good now. Good now, good now, good now. Welcome to the Music of Work, a side project, or actually the real project for me. Who am I? I'm Ryan Erickson. I am happy to see you and be with you whenever and however and whenever it is for you. So today on the Music of Work, ta-da, I have a person in the penalty box right now who I've kind of met electronically a few times. I know he's got a super deep music background that I totally want to get into. Does some wonderful, super interesting consulting, has a Substack, all of which we'll tell you about later on. But without further ado, it's 43 seconds in, and who knows who may be on or not. I will now introduce onto the stage Mr. Paul Crick. Hello, Paul.
Hello, Ryan. Good day. How are you?
How am I? Who am I? When am I? I am kind of popping here and trying to figure out where I want to take this today. The theme, because we haven't really met or done this before, was about, well, it's the music of what? Be the music of improvisation. We're going to be improvising this today. As we likely have some curiosities about each other. I know we have some musical alignments and stuff. For those of you, I'm going to make you jealous. We were having Joni Mitchell from Shadows and Light as we entered the backstage. So I can't play her because it would be copyright claimed. But so to start, to introduce you and your beautiful bad self to the world here on YouTube. So what do you want people to know about you?
So I'm going to guess that people are interested in what I do for a living. So my background is, I'd like to say I'm a recovering management consultant. I spent 20 years going around the world for the likes of PricewaterhouseCoopers and Capgemini and IBM and one or two others, working with organizations in a lot of different capacities, helping them essentially try to navigate change and transformation. And that's where I started. I now run my own business, the Elevate Partnership, and we focus on helping teams and individuals to be brilliant and to work together better.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So the work together better kind of thing. That's kind of want to be in that game. What kind of better? Am I going to ask you a coaching question right off? I think I am, but we can go somewhere else with it.
No, that's okay.
What do you mean by better? What kind of betters do you get asked to create in the work that you do, and what do you connect with in that better?
It's interesting because it depends who you talk to. A lot of senior leaders will say, "Fix my team. My team isn't working. Help my team work together better." And then you probe and you say, "Well, what does that mean?" Well, they need to be more productive. They need to produce more. They need to stop making mistakes. They need to, we need to produce our revenue, hit our revenue targets, our profit targets, and all those kinds of things. And the problem's out there is the first thing, and it's usually not. It usually starts with the person I'm talking to. The other thing is people want data. They talk about wanting to make things better, but they'll say, "But show me the ROI of that. What are the numbers? If I'm going to spend this, if I'm going to invest this, what am I going to get back for this?" And it's difficult to do because there is a direct relationship, but every business case I've ever seen in the last 20 years, whilst it looks good on paper, never delivers in reality, either in full or it's often in part. So I start the conversation by saying, look, if you look at the numbers and you take some of the benchmarks, and there are plenty of benchmarks out there, employees on average will spend 2.1 hours per week dealing with unresolved conflict or miscommunication or misalignment. And there's a ton of stories that tell you that. And then if you take benchmarks for salaries, and you say, well, if it's in this industry and this, and it's this is the annual average salary, that works out at an hourly rate of this, take tax off, and here's the cost of that. And the cost for a 50-person business can be estimated to be around $225,000 a year. And that's the start point. What's interesting is I'm because I'm no longer a management consultant, I'm sort of poacher term gamekeeper. And the management consultant way of thinking would be, oh, let's think of a really big number, or let's find some numbers to justify why it is, and we'll scare you to death into taking some action to improve things.
Yeah.
I went the other way and said, well, I'm not going to conflate this. Yes, it's a calculation on a napkin, and I'm happy for it to be challenged. But let's start there, and let's use it to start a conversation. And the 2.1 number usually turns into, no, I spend way more time dealing with miscommunication, misalignment, conflict. You say, oh, so it's more, is it? Okay, so you're actually spending more money. You're burning more money than you need to. And that's the start point that says, okay, so you've got a platform that's on fire. Do you want to do something about it? Because the other thing you get is you get organizations that go, yeah, my team doesn't work well together. And yeah, I know we can do stuff, but you know what? We're making money.
Why change? Why change if you're printing money hand over fist?
Exactly. And so it's horses for courses, and it comes down to the individual leader and the extent to which they are truly people focused, as opposed to just saying they're people focused, and really wanting to do that and willing to include themselves in the mix. I'm just doing a piece of work with a team of 14 leaders, and the chief exec it was a great conversation. And I turned to him as we were getting to the point where we agreed to start. And I said, you do know you're in mix for this as well. You don't get away with it. We're gonna look at you too, because at the end of the day, you bring the weather.
Paul, how dare you? How dare you? This is for my. This is not for me. This is for those people. They're the ones who are wrong. They need to be fixed. Fix them, please.
Well, the good ones, and there are plenty of them out there. The good ones will address that, and I appreciate there are priorities. So, I have a former client that I've been talking to. I've done some work for. We've done some good work together, and the situation is the organization was acquired. So, of course, it goes into this acquisition and all that kind of thing. But we're having a conversation about accountability. And how accountability was an issue, and how can we come up with a universal thing that's really easy to explain what accountability is, and then encourage people to become more accountable. And again, we're trying to reconnect on this now that the dust is starting to settle post acquisition, and it's very clear that there's an end of quarter thing going on. So there's a chase for numbers and doing all those things, but it puts this thing sort of backstage, and it's kind of like yeah when I got time, I'll pay attention to it. So I think it's so interesting to see who steps up when and why. And not everybody's ready for it, not everybody wants it, but when you do address it, when you work it, it's great.
Ready for accountability.
Ready to work together better.
Okay. I want to dive into the accountability bit first, because there's the assumption again. So in this, so you're singing a song to the world. This is Paul singing Paul's epic tune, and some senior manager somewhere is hearing your epic tune. It's like, I dig it. I want to dance to it. So let me dance with Paul. I need to bring Paul in house and tell me your story, Paul. I want everyone to dance to the mythical 5-act Wagnerian opera that is Paul Craig's consulting agreement. And who's dancing to opera anyway? But so then this is okay. I'm going to stand on the top of the mountain and tell those of you that you're accountable. Where are you accountable to? To whom are you accountable? Right? And the assumption is that those who are individual contributors are accountable to manager, and accountable to the top manager. And that doesn't, I mean, this is philosophical, right? I mean, that's a traditional way of looking at accountability. And that if you're accountable to me and I'm accountable to that person, there's the incentives are kind of, the the temptation to force, you need to be accountable to me and to say, do this so I can meet my numbers and do that.
Mhm.
Um, what I'm wondering, and coming from a musical background, this is kind of a hypothesis
Sure.
about what if that it wasn't about being accountable to those who are, in, above in whatever hierarchy. What if it was about you and me being accountable to one another and to say, you need me, I need you, and we need 5, 7 other people to do what we need to do. Is that kind of accountability, where it's not, I need to report this up, I need to report this up. What does that's like music. That's like, to me, that's making music with a team, and we are in ensemble, making art together.
Mhm.
Is that, does that sound like it's really possible? Based on what you see, does that kind of horizontal accountability, what does that sound like to you?
I think it is possible. And I think it relies on using accountability as we understand it in the traditional sense as a tool of last resort rather than a tool of first resort. Um, uh, I think there comes a point. So in a musical ensemble, let's say a jazz quartet, everyone plays their part. Everybody listens to everybody else. Everybody takes their turn. Everybody improvises. There is an etiquette that's either for that ensemble or for that genre, and there are some rules of the road. So if you follow those, that's great. And everybody has a responsibility to show up having done their homework. So they know their scales, they know their arpeggios, they know the pieces, they know the charts, they understand how that works, and they understand how to perform together, which is great. And they perform in rehearsals, they perform on stage, they show up on time, they take their share of load in and load out, if they don't have a road crew, and that's how that works. And because they love it, nobody has to point a finger and say, you need to be accountable. It's kind of like, I love it. And I'm just showing up. I'm in my happy place. I'm doing the things I love to do. One finger can't lift a pebble. We can't play this piece. Well, we can do a solo piece, but it's not the same as us working together as a spectacle. And we're looking for that moment when we magically fall into the pocket and the audience's jaws hit the floor and go, what the hell just happened? Do you know what I mean?
Do ours together. And this is like the gold standard. This is the stuff that I wanted to seek. And it sounds like you're exactly speaking the kind of ensemble performance that could really unlock a lot of this engagement in the workplace that people complain about, the Gallup numbers that haven't changed for 35 years, and we still measure the same things and get the same results. And when you wonder why that is, so being an ensemble, and you mentioned very, very specific things I talk about too, is that I respect your mastery. I know that you're coming as a pro to play, and we are playing together. We are bonded together to do this piece of music in this place. And whether it's a jazz ensemble with that level of mastery, or your section players in an orchestra, or what have you, that kind of ensemble experience, and not the performance that I want to perform. I want to perform at my highest because I'm in it with you and we're in it for the audience. I'm not performing for the senior vice president of music so they can tell the chief music executive and to tell the board of music directors that we did a good job and that we should be paid for it. So that's a very different way of organizing.
I think it is.
And that's one of those things that, well, how might folks like you and I know there are other people out there who get this, who have come from with a musical background, either formal or informal, who know what this feels like. How how might we be inspirations to those folks who are in organizations to make the music happen? I mean, that's that to me that's the work worth doing, right? And that's kind of like what. And I know I'm kind of going into the how, but where do you see that happening? Who do you see executives or higher ups who maybe you have a hint that they might be in that kind of being able to hear the musical language?
I don't know about
Yeah.
hearing the music. I think if you're speaking to people who have a musical background, they get it.
Mhm.
My experience tends to be in technology, and yes, you come across people that have a musical interest, and you click. But for the majority, their interests don't necessarily lie there, and therefore it's a metaphor that you have to find the metaphor. You have to meet them where they are and find the language and the topic that is going to engage them, whether that's a cycling team, a relay team on a track, whether it's a soccer team, a basketball team, a swimming team. I don't know, trying to find, maybe it's a group of people, a mountain rescue team, maybe it's a paramedic team. Who knows? It's trying to find the thing that they can hook onto. I think before that, though, you've got to get through to this. What does it mean? Because a lot of people will talk about, well, we just need to create psychological safety, and if we have psychological safety, then everybody will perform better. And funnily enough, the results on that are still mixed, and the jury is definitely out. And I think it's because we don't understand what psychological safety is, because we think it's the absence of threat. We think we kind of say you can say whatever you want, and there are no career consequences. Well, that doesn't pan out in reality. But my preference is the idea, and it's Dr. Gabor-Mate's idea, which is psychological safety is the presence of human connection. And when we are connected, then as we are now, we are comfortable having a conversation that is willing to do some exploring, and then with a little bit of give and take, we explore and we go, oh, okay, I can start to talk about this, or maybe that topic's off limit. But there's that, it's based on connection. It's not based on, Paul, you mustn't say this in this particular program, or you can say this and there'll be no comeback. It's okay to do that. That starts there, and that triggers a whole level of unlearning that needs to happen. So how am I how do I show up? We have to, that kind of change starts with self. So how do I show up? How do other people see I show up? And what's the gap between the two? What's my impact on other people? And how does that translate in terms of how I think and the assumptions I have about myself and others? And how does that express itself in behavior in the workplace? Until we can get a data fix on that. So for all those who think, oh, this is soft and fluffy, we can find ways to produce data that says, actually, no, we've got validated, reliable data that we can show you that for this particular snapshot, in this particular context, this is how people see you showing up. And here's all your strengths, and here's the ones that you're overusing and could use differently to get a better result.
You said so much there that I will likely clip a few things out to talk about. The first thing is the psychological safety bit. Yes, it is super important to be in an environment where you can be vulnerable and show courage and be willing to make a mistake and have the grace of all of those in your area to give you that. I think psychological safety it's one of those words like leadership, agile, culture, values that they are meaningless without specific context and definitions around, well, what does it take to the human connection? I mean, that absolutely. Gabor-Mate, is that okay, Gabor-Mate. I haven't read his stuff. Embarrassing. I'm being vulnerable saying I haven't read that, but I know the name.
Well, that's okay. You can't. There's a lot to read out there. You can't read it all.
You
I've
can't read
tried.
every book. Oh, damn it. Um, but this to me comes again to the musical thing about, okay, so I respect your dignity and autonomy as a human being, and that baseline of, if you know, and if I'm coming to you, I'm being the invitation to say, I respect you, I respect your dignity, I am not going to harm you, I am, and if you believe me, right, if I respect you, I show you my respect, I earn your trust and you earn mine, right? So we have respect and trust. And what is it about you that I respect? I respect your skills, your way of being. And because I respect and trust your dignity and your autonomy, and that accepting the uncertainty of you maybe making a mistake when you step out of your lane, or you make a mistake in, whether it's deploying some code in this place in the wrong environment, or whether
Mm.
it's sending a PR release to the wrong person in the email, to any of those, right? Any of those mistakes. And if you, me, Mary, Jaleel, and Ahmed over here, if if we have this mutual understanding, respect, and trust, and all of those things, well, I don't have to call it. I could call it, boo boo magoo,
Mm.
and it's if someone else calls it psychological safety, fine, fine. But that's what it is for us to be playing together, wanting to play, wanting to perform, and for lack of a better word, there is no better word than to show love for one another, right?
Yeah.
And that connection, that bonded, that intimacy, which is a word I love, a friend of mine uses.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, all right. So now, and we were defining more of this gold standard, of the psychological safety of nurturing an environment that affords adult humans the opportunity to behave like adult humans with each other doing work, and not to be afraid, and not to have, like, again, you said it first, I'm not threatened,
Mm.
right? Psychological safety from what?
Yeah,
Safety from
exactly.
a compliance lord, so if I'm bound by compliance to a strict standard, how on earth am I, why would I be vulnerable? Why would
Mhm.
I expose myself to that danger?
Mhm.
So, uh, the so in your work, in your consulting work, so the I would, what what hierarchical level of, traditional organization do you typically have the conversation with? And
I
what is the hardest? How did the conversations go throughout your engagements? That's out of curiosity.
um, so they say yes lives in the land of no. So there's a lot of no's, um, for all sorts of reasons. I've spoken to people, and remember one organisation I work with, a former colleague of mine, does a great job as a CEO for a company, and he was, I need to get my team together and sort out how they work together, and it took a while to do that. So I said, look, let's do a test. Let's do a trial. I'll come in. We'll do some exercises for half a day, and we'll see what the team learns, and if you want to go further. And it's been interesting because I saw a lot of correspondence, that was going on between team members. I'd get sent WhatsApps of, this is the kind of conversations our team members are having, and I'm going, oh, that's really interesting. And
Fascinating.
it's yes, really fascinating. And you go, okay, that's where you are. But there came a point where this person didn't want to take the chance of moving forward and go vulnerable themselves to sort of move the team forward and give the team the opportunity. Now, whether that was he didn't want to hand off, he didn't want to be that vulnerable and hand off the control, to let the team figure things out for themselves. Whether some other priority was more important. So I know it was around the time that COVID was sort of coming to an end. The restrictions were easing, So perhaps there was a chase for revenue, and I come back to this thing. It's like, well, we're making money, so why do we need to invest in our teams other than keeping the people that are high performance and deliver the results for us? I get it, and that's fine. If you want to keep going like that, you can, and there's nothing to stop you, except that the teams that do invest outperform the teams that don't. The data is compelling, and therefore my question is, well, why don't you want to do that? All right, you've got the disruption, you've got to try and find the time to organize that. Maybe you've got 600 other change projects going on at the same time, and another one isn't going to help, particularly one that is important, or one that bursts, breaks the banks of the levee, and it overflows, and everybody treats it as a moan session. And I can understand that.
Yeah.
So it really is a forward thinking senior leadership team that wants to do this. Sometimes it's driven by life and circumstances. So one team I worked with, a CEO said, "Oh, I want to, I've been driven. I'm a serial entrepreneur, but I'm 60 next year, and actually, I want to slow down a bit. And I want to enjoy my life while I've still got, the faculties, and stop thinking about work every 2 minutes and stop arbitrating on every decision. I want my team to step in and lead and take some of that responsibility, but they don't know how to, and they've not got the capabilities. Can you help?" And therefore, that's great, because there's a personal motivation in there as well as a professional motivation to keep the performance of the organization going. So everyone's different, and every organization is different.
In that exact, so wondering about the executive who wanted to enjoy his life as opposed to being slave to whatever incentive to do more, make more decisions. So what can happen? Did you have a conversation with him about how did you find that out? First of all, I guess was that an inbound?
It was just Paul,
my work sucks. My work sucks. I hate it. I want to do something else. Was it that?
No, it wasn't that. No, it wasn't that. It really was a genuine. I've built this organization. It consists of 5 businesses that are active, 3 businesses that are dormant. I'm involved in every one. I'm the conduit through everything, and it's grinding me down. And I'm approaching my 60th birthday, and I want to take the foot off the gas some, and create room for others to step in and lead. I don't know if they've got the capabilities. I don't know if they've got the experience. I'd like to give them the opportunity. Can you help? That's very vulnerable. And then that's a behind closed doors, one-to-one conversation, scoping out, where are you coming from? What's driving this? Why me? Why now? Which are very important questions to decide whether this is a project that has legs or not.
This project, meaning the change initiative,
the reason
for bringing Paul in.
Yeah, because you're not going to do it in 5 minutes. You're talking about 12 to 18 months journey. So we've completed the first piece of that, which is we're now at a baseline where everybody understands how people perceive how they show up, and everybody's got a view of, if you take a litmus test of how they lead together now versus how they want to lead in future, they've got the data that shows them, there's some significant gaps. Now we're moving into the piece of, right, now let's devise a program to develop the team in classic development of the team, but then let's also work with individuals to say, how do you want to change how you show up? Not how must you change, which is often the way. Coming from a consulting environment, there's a very stepped career path, which is, junior management consultant, senior management consultant, program manager, associate partner, or director, or managing director, that has a certain set of criteria that says you must demonstrate X, Y, and Z. And I get why that is in large organizations, but it can be quite constraining in some ways. And you've got to, as an individual, you've got to want to do that. and be willing to take the constraints and a certain acceptance of the system and how the system works.
I want to say no, you don't. No, you don't. You can just go.
You can, and that's okay. You can go, because if that was the path I took. I didn't want to go to partner. I didn't want to go down that path. I wasn't comfortable.
So I'm glad you went there, because I wanted, if you would maybe tell me a little bit of your biography. How did your individual consult? Well, yeah, how much time? Okay, so we got enough time. However long you want to take.
No,
so how do you define your consulting practice? What kind of consultant are you? You know, what instrument?
Well, I'm not.
Kind of thing.
I'm not a consultant. I think, and I'm not a coach. I'm coming to the conclusion that I'm more of a thinking partner, and that really my job is to help people think differently, both individually and collectively. And I think that's what I attempt to do.
Well, again, I'm gonna step into a persona here. It's like,
sure.
Well, I'm at my I need a thinking partner on my team. Right. I need to buy a thinking partner out there. It's not like there's job postings.
And that's the thing. People don't buy thinking partners. They buy the outcome. Help my team work better together. Okay, what does that mean? Oh, it means we do our numbers. It means we do less rework. What is that? We bring forward, sales don't slip into the next quarter. We do what we say we're going to do. It's those kinds of things.
And that conversation progresses and progresses and progresses into deeper and more
you have to
levels to connection.
Yeah, because you have to ask, so why aren't you doing it now? How does it serve you not to do it? If you don't change, what happens? I was having a conversation. It's an ongoing conversation, because it's a company I'd really like to work with, working in the clean energy area. And I'm asking the chief people officer, so what happens if you do nothing? She said, oh, wow, I've not been asked that question before. That's great. And you go, good. That's new thinking. That's making you think about it.
Yeah.
How does it serve you not to change? What is the story? What is the narrative that perpetuates if you don't change? Oh, well, we don't change because of this. Or, the story we tell ourselves is this, and that's the story we tell everyone else.
Yeah. And if I weren't to tell that story, I would be
who am I? What do I do? And where do I go?
And what's in this? And I don't have a job? Well, if I don't have a job anymore, what's my identity? I think you said you're kind of tie your identity into this place, and that, where do I stand here? Oh, I know where I stand. Okay, I'm stable. I have stability here, and I don't have to deal with uncertainty as much as I think. If I don't change, things are going to stay the same. Maybe that's an assumption.
And my identity is secure, and I'm not in danger.
Yeah.
And I don't have to live with uncertainty, even though I have all the agency I need to change. I get it. It's risky. I always remember years ago, I was a 40-a-day smoker. I look back now and I go, what were you thinking? Anyway,
wow.
I used to have a very heavy smoking habit, and I was grossly overweight and just unhealthy. And I remember having to tell my boss for the very first time, when he swung by, he was a smoker, and the habit was he would sort of gather one or two people when he was going for a smoke break outside and say, "Shall we go for a cigarette?" And we'd all go, "Yeah." And then we'd pick up all the gossip or his latest thinking or this, that, and the other. It's kind of like a water cooler conversation, but outside with cigarettes. And there was the first day where I said, no. I said, I don't smoke anymore. And you just feel, like it's tumbleweed across the. You're strange, And it's the same. It's the same when you give up alcohol. It's like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah. People like us don't do things like that. That's not the way we do things around here. And this is, I think I was you alluded to it. What's the fear, right?
Mm.
The fears of being outcast,
And it's very, very real. And you've only to look at data about attachment and what happens when attachment doesn't happen in young children, in babies. That's very real, and it's a real threat to our nervous system. I hate the term wired. I'm trying to find a better. We are biologically set up to connect with each other, and when we don't, and particularly when we are excluded, that creates emotional pain. That emotional pain exists in the same brain center as physical pain, so it is real pain to be excluded, and it happens all the time.
Yeah.
And then we have unresolved events and energy in our body, and that influences how we think about, how we make assumptions, stories we tell ourselves, which then translates into behavior, and then we're back where we started.
In the stories we tell ourselves, or the stories we tell ourselves about other people, that inform our worldviews about where we stand, and that I am people like this. These are I affiliate with these people, and I feel comfortable in this, and the stability, and okay. And if you realize that, my gosh, this stability is turning me into a smoker, a drinker, someone who doesn't feel healthy. I don't feel good in this stability. I don't care however many zeros I have after the first digit, in my income. It's killing my soul and my body, and that.
So the short biography, the story I always tell people, I mean, I told it in different variations, but the version I tell now is I was in the Hilton Hotel after a particularly difficult week of consulting. I was in my room at the end of a long day, and I looked at the wall of the hotel room, and my thought was, is this it? Because if it is, I'm not happy, and I can't tell you why. I'm not happy. And that was exactly what I went through. I went through a process which was a long, long process for all sorts of reasons, of letting go of that to get to a place where now I can generally, hand on heart, say, I absolutely love the work I do. It's an absolute privilege. I am blessed with a great life, a much simpler life that is uncomplicated by some of the trappings that I thought were really, really important when I was much younger in my career. And I get it. We all do that. So we all, I think, at some point go through some kind of gate at some stage in life that says, actually, I need to unlearn the things that I learned that I thought were supposed to be important, because my body is telling me, and my behavior is telling me, that's not the thing I need to be doing. That's not who I am.
At that point in time, I'm going to make an assumption here. Please, tell me I'm wrong, but probably a partner or something like that, in consulting firm or something around there, possibly. You're
I never made it that far. I got as far as I was coming up to associate partner, and then I just stepped away and was lucky to be offered an opportunity to step aside from consulting. So we parted on great terms, and very amicably. And then I was made redundant, which then gave me the opportunity to take the leap and start my own business. And then I discovered I knew absolutely nothing, despite 20 years in management consulting.
Okay, all right. So you can't unsee, you can't unfeel that moment.
No, not at all.
and so that's, it's very present for me, because I was I amicably separated from a large company with 3 letters in its name. It says they move people around. I think I've been moved. I think that's what's called. So you separate from that, and in my journey, kind of, okay, I'm separated, and I'm like, wow, this feels good. I have a little bit of a severance. I can kind of feel into what was been arriving in my. I kind of found myself in this gig, and then, okay, and then, oh wow, the severance is running out, so I probably ought to get another gig. Fun time's over, Ryan. And so I get another gig, and 6 months into that. I'm making more than I ever made because I'm independent doing this in this gig. And then 6 months in, I get cancer. Hello. All
Oh,
right.
I'm sorry.
Oops. Nothing. I am better now. So that's a
Good.
good thing. I get cancer and I say, hey, client, hey, consulting firm, I've got cancer and I want to be here for as long as I can because I want to do the work I was hired to do. And they say, fine, great. And 5 days later, I'm laid off. So, and this is fall of 2019, or actually it's the summer
Right.
of 2019. So then I go right into COVID, and I didn't have that moment like you had, but it was this. I'd already kind of been burnt a few times about
Okay.
that this machine doesn't care about the organism, right? It can't care. It has no heart, no soul, so it can't care about me. And then cancer, and they come around. It's like it's in COVID, and the 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 world has changed. I
Mm.
lost my identity. I lost my health. I've lost anything, and I'm like, I don't want to go back to
No.
that environment again. And so then, wow. And I am still trying to figure this out. So that moment of, okay, what do I need to do? How do I need to be? Who do I need to be? What
Mm.
instrument am I going to learn so I can play it and gig with folks and do a house band here and do a gig here and
Nice.
go to write some tune as a jingle, and so how do you build a career out of that realization that I don't want to play that game anymore. I want to play a new game, but I don't know the rules. I I I don't necessarily know what my position is. I don't know what instrument I should play in the band. Um, and I kind of have an idea of what the goal is, but I don't know. I don't know what's going on. How did how did you have that? What was that moment like, from the I can't live like this anymore to the okay, I can survive like this? Is that how'd you get through the liminal space? I think that's
Oh
the
man. I mean, that involved a lot of financial sorting out. It involved a lot of soul searching and a lot of inner work over the years to actually get to a point where I could even entertain the idea that I was strong enough, good enough to go on my own, and that people would want to engage me for work. And they do, and they tell me I'm good at what I do, which is what I tell people. I just say, well, I can tell you till I'm blue in the face, I'm good, but there's no need to believe me. Go and talk to the people that apparently think I'm good at what I do. They are the best salespeople. I think the experience is no one event, and I think you look back. It's like Steve Jobs says: you look back through life and you join the dots in reverse. And I can see how that's happened. I did neurolinguistic programming. I trained in psychotherapy. I trained in energy psychology. I tried this. I did this side gig. I did that. Little bits of it worked. I did this other thing. I worked in artist development for a while. That was great fun. I played on stage in in a couple of high profile venues, and that was fun. And I learned some stuff. And by doing it, I learned what I wanted to take from that experience and what I also wanted to leave behind. And I think the saying goes, I have immense respect for anyone that takes the entrepreneurial route, because it is courageous. You do risk a lot. You're the swan gliding across the water, pedaling like hell underneath, hoping that your savings will last, and that when you dip into your pension, you go, oh, I know I shouldn't do this, but I really don't want to go back to a job. And so a lot of it is developing that I think a lot of it is developing self-trust. Trust in yourself, trust that the process will work as long as you work the process. And what I've noticed is when you think you're going to go under, something comes from an unexpected direction. You go, well, I don't know how that happened, but I'm so grateful it did. And you start to learn to trust that a bit more. And it really is a case of, you are building the parachute as you've jumped out of the plane, and trusting that you will be held, and that you will learn to fly. And it's a bumpy journey. It's a difficult journey. but I can choose my own time. I genuinely look forward to Mondays. I look forward to working with my clients. I get to do the work I want to do, not the work that people need me to do, or stuff that I'm not good at. And there's plenty I'm not good at, by the way. But I give that to other people. I go, listen, I'm not good at this. You're brilliant. You're brilliant at it. Help me do it.
I don't play country music. You know,
No,
I don't
no,
do it.
I can't.
Yeah,
no,
I can't.
No.
I love, you know, hey, great players. You know, Albert Lee, fantastic. You know,
I was going to say, if Albert Lee's free,
get Albert. Yeah,
yeah. He's great.
Yeah.
So you just learn, and I suppose, apart from meeting and marrying my wife, which was definitely the best decision I ever made in my life, the other one was to enter an Aikido dojo and start to take up martial arts fairly late, because it's a somatic practice, it's a collective practice, it's non-competitive, it's a non-striking art, so it has everything in it for all the right reasons. It's known as the art of peace, the art of love, and yet when you look at it, you kind of go, that's strange, but it is as beautiful as ballet, it's as demanding physically as ballet. And there's just something about it that spoke to me, and it's everything to do with how you lead yourself, and it's because it's about self-mastery, which you never achieve, and it's all about how do you work as a collective, how do you learn to lift other people up. So if you meet a white belt and you're a black belt and you train with them, how do you give them confidence to go, you can do this, you're just at a different place in the journey, and stick with it, all those things.
Yeah. Oof. So much music there. So much is similar. How did Aikido come into your life? And I also want to say your Substack is the Pocket Dojo.
It is.
And it sounds something of an Aikido reference there, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, because a dojo is a place where you practice, and I just wanted something that people could carry around in their pocket, somewhere to practice that you carry around in your pocket. So my wife came up with it. She said, how about the Pocket Dojo? And I went, that is just brilliant. So the credit's all hers. And I try hard to get people to think. I try to be a voice rather than an echo, which, you know, that means it takes longer to build the readership, and I'm not doing listicles, and I'm trying hard to stay away. I'm trying hard to think about things in a different way. And there's people that do it way better than me, people like Seth Godin, you know, who are much more articulate than me. But that's what that's for. And yes, it is a place of practice that comes from the world of dojo, because you walk in through the door, your job is to train and learn and walk away with something new that you didn't have when you first came in.
Or the rehearsal space, the practice room, or something like that.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah.
Are you bound at the top of the hour? Do we need to start lancing this?
No, I'm good for as you go as far as you want, and then when you've had enough, just kick me off.
Oh well, so we get 5. I may fall asleep on here. You'll be there.
Yeah.
I would imagine, again, you mentioned Seth Godin, again, reading Seth Godin. Seth's a big guy. Do you have a favorite Seth Godin book? I would be remiss if I didn't ask.
This is marketing. So I'm a marketeer. When I went to university, I did marketing. So I did a higher, in this country, it was sort of like a higher national diploma, because I messed up my A levels. So I had to do that first to then get into university. And I did my undergraduate was in marketing. And suddenly I understood this stuff, but I read loads of things, loads of books. I became a reader. I really did learn to read at university. But This is Marketing is by far the best marketing book ever published. And you know, all respect to Philip Kotler and all the masters of marketing that you would say, oh, well, go and read them. It's like, yeah, but for modern marketing, go listen, go read Seth.
And which totally, I now hearing that and knowing that and kind of knowing what that book's message is, that what is marketing about? What is it? This is marketing. I know what it is. Making change happen, right? That what are
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
People
So
like
I
us
like
do things like this.
and make things better by making better things. Yeah, those are the maxims I love, and I try to look for clients that are really committed to the work we're doing is trying to make things better by making better things, rather than people saying, oh, who's your avatar, who's your ideal client. Well, one of the things in the back of my head is this organization trying to make things better in some way, shape, or form. That really is important. So I think there's that. And then rather than trying to go out to be number one or the biggest or the unicorn, it's like, can I just find the others who want to work with me and do the kind of work I offer? And as long as I've got enough to do that, I've no interest in becoming sort of like the next McKinsey or whatever. Let them go do that. Whoever. I just want to be able to support my family, do the things, do some good, and create the space and time to do the things I love with my family, do my music, do my Aikido. I'm quite simple, really. And not.
And not what, because it's hard enough being me. It's hard enough being me, let alone trying to be somebody else, whoever's that is. But and this also comes down to, it's hard to shun the non-believers.
Yes and no. I'm getting better at that. I'm okay. I'm quite happy not to try and shoehorn people into the offering that I have. If it's not for you and you're not ready, just let me know. That's fine. I don't want to waste your time or my time. I'm ready to move on to go and find someone who it does resonate with, who is ready to do the work. And it's okay. That's not a reflection on you. It's not a reflection on me. It just is.
Yeah. And in those moments, those experiments, trying to turn your past, or to transform the gifts that your past gave you into gifts that you can give to others who can't wait to receive them, who cannot wait to dance with you. And that's the, did you go through that process? So the hard part for me in that, what's the hard part? The hard part is trying to get into the heart and mind. What do you believe? What do you want? What kind of change do you want? What do you believe? And what do you know? And how can I align what you know, what you don't know, to what you know, so we can believe and want the same things and go there together? I find it, I have whatever avatar you call it, I don't know. Was the empathy challenge that hard for you, or did you kind of have an idea of who you wanted to sing to? Who was your audience?
Yeah, it's people who are tired. It's people who are tired of living in a skin that isn't theirs, and they really are in pain. They really want to shift from where they are, and they want to move to a place where they can inhabit the skin that is truly theirs, so that they live their values and integrity, with integrity, without compromising their health, and without compromising beliefs or anything else. That really is it. So it's looking for people who are at that point of, I have a bleeding neck, please stop the bleeding. I'm tired and it hurts, and I'm showing up in some way. I know I keep doing this thing, but I don't understand why I keep doing it, because I keep trying different things and they're not working.
I've read all the books.
Yeah,
I've gone
read
to all
the books, seen the movies. Yeah,
I hired 10 coaches.
To which my answer is, you need to get on the mat. We always talk about the mat in Aikido, and it's kind of like the mat has all the answers. So you can watch all the movies about Aikido, you can read all the books about it, but until you get on the mat and you fall on your ass for the first time, you kind of go, I'm learning. Good.
Planes are great until you get punched in the mouth.
Yes, exactly.
Says the philosopher Mike Tyson. one of the ways I came into contact with you,
Yep.
one was hearing you on Dave Theron's podcast, which I want to know how you came into contact with Dave. I have a hint that it might be because of your involvement in Tom Bohank and the Prometheus project. Is that?
Yes. Yeah. I've sort of been working with Tom and learning from Tom about his framework. He has a very ambitious mission, which he has made tremendous progress on, which is about how do you make the practice of leadership easy to understand so that you can make good leadership more common, to create more leaders, essentially, to help people do that. And he's been really smart because he has talked to some real leading authorities in that space who've really helped him shape his ideas. And it's not simple. That's the problem, which is why the topic is so researched. And it's that classic story of I forgot what it was. I think the monks in India that have got hold of the blindfolded monks in India that have got hold of an elephant, but they've all got different parts of the elephant, and they go, oh well, I've got hold of the tail, so it must be a rope, or I've got hold of the trunk, and that's something else, or I've got hold of the leg, and so it must be a tree, or I've got hold, I hold its back, oh no, it's a rock, and that's the challenge is, and then it gets so distorted, and then we're all seduced by the elite athletes, elite sport, elite military, elite performing arts, and we go, well, that's it. That's what we want to do. And then it's that classic thing, isn't it? Stupid joke. So how many people want change? Everyone. Good. So how many psychologists does it take to change a light bulb? One, but the light bulb's got to want to change, and that's the issue. It's an old joke. It's an old joke. First? Yeah, who's going to go first? And it's the ones that go first that kudos, huge courage for doing that. And they exist, and there are more of them. We just don't talk about them enough. It's kind of like it's like watching the news. We all love watching bad stories because we're somehow, we're attuned to negativity, and we go, oh, it's war. That I'm attracted to that. Whereas what we want is all the good news stories of all the people that are doing great stuff, and people going and accomplishing things, and those stories do exist. They're just not necessarily in the mainstream.
Well, I wonder, and I hear that, and then every time some good news program comes on, I find like maybe this is just me, but sometimes I don't feel like I want to watch it necessarily, and because and I'm thinking about that. Well, Ryan, why is that? And that sounds really goofy, but then I almost think like if I'm looking at that, people shouting at each other about ridiculous things that really don't matter, and just making fools of themselves, and that is kind of entertaining. Whereas if I'm watching someone doing real work, like going to India and helping people see who can't pay for glasses, or Acumen Project, or whatever, name whatever global kind of initiative to help really shift the human condition. I can't watch that because I'm jealous. I'm jealous of, why is that? Oh gosh, oh man, that's great, but that's not me. I'd rather watch Trump and Harris bat it around and say, God, they're so dumb. They're hopeless, hapless, crazy, whatever. But and then it almost feels hopeless just to want to do good, and that's and it is and in this moment, again, you see there are people out there. There are folks who want to go first, who are willing to be the early adopters to say, hey, this isn't working. This isn't working. I can't stand it anymore. And I don't know that that's going to work. That might not work, but it just might. And I'm willing to go first. I want to go first because I can't stand this anymore. Which is and I think this, I don't know, are you familiar with open space technology? I would imagine you are. So I'm a huge open space person. I've bought the whole pill, but one thing that gets lost in open space is that there are some preconditions to it. To have a really rich open space that opens the space for transformation, is that first of all, you have to have a burning issue, something
Yes.
that people really care about, that has a high degree of complexity. Nobody has the answer. There is no one answer.
Mhm.
There's an extreme diversity of opinions, people coming from all over the place. There's a high potential for conflict, right? Okay. So that's all this stuff's uncomfortable so far. And you have number 4, a deadline of yesterday.
Yes.
So if all that stuff is together, well, open some space and let the people get to work, right? Then the super simple sit in a circle, put up a bulletin board, open a marketplace to get to work. That's fine, that can happen, but you just can't just do that in
Nope.
some place where people are printing money hand over fist, and there's no urgency, and we're all in lockstep in compliance with the same bit, so. Yeah. And where and again, this is the marketing, this is singing the tune that people dance to. Where to what frequency are the early adopters listening? And I
Well,
think in those,
I think they're turning the TV off, and I think they've stopped scrolling. I think those
Yeah.
are two. I think those are two very, I was going to say simple steps, some positive steps that you can take.
Yeah.
Stop reading the news, stop watching the news, and get out and have conversations. Go meet people. Go do what we used to do. Read books. Have conversation. Talk about ideas. Explore. Be willing to accept different points of view. Be willing to celebrate differences, and be willing to see similarity and celebrate that too.
And wow, the first thing of that, it's in a. It used to be you go to coffee with someone, right? You could kind of go to, when you do that, coffee will let you do that in public, and there's a certain level of protection you have there, and that you have to be somewhat guarded, that you don't just burst out in tears or tell some story in public. But this domain, again, when it's not being recorded and live streamed to whoever else in the future, this domain, I think, affords an opportunity to get super intimate and super close to someone and speak to their heart.
Yeah.
And again, I want to listen to your story. I want you to see me looking into your eyes, and hearing you and listening to you and attempting and offering you the grace to understand and to be there. And I think that is a hopeful thing, for there to be that kind of magic in the world.
And it is magic, and it's that simple. People, I believe, in my 17 years of doing this work, people want to be seen and heard for who they are. And when we do that always creates magic. I've never not seen that.
I wanted to pause there because I know I want to cut that one out and share that all over the place, even though I shouldn't be on social media anymore.
No judgment.
No, and again, doing a piece of good work. Hopefully, this has been a wonderful connection. I've totally enjoyed this.
Thank you.
There are 2 places I would like to go, and then to land gracefully here, we'll put each other in the penalty box and then talk a moment or two. But the first one I typically ask is if there were a safe place to have a dangerous conversation, something where you could speak the unspeakable and not worry about someone othering you or however you want to put that. So a safe space for that kind of conversation to happen. For you in your work, and I'll just talk about the work world, not everything else. In your work, what is that conversation? What's the question that would invite it, and why is that important?
The conversation would be about the impact of trauma on our interpersonal neurobiology and how that transmits in different ways into our personal lives, our professional lives, and the impact that we have on others. I think that's a conversation that needs to be had, and for people to really understand that it's not the event, it's the impact of the event, and it's an adapt, and that leads into a wider conversation as to what is mental health. I personally believe, and this may sound arrogant, and I'm sure there's people that will disagree with me, and that's fine. I'm open to the conversation. Mental health is not what we think it is. Trauma is not what we think it is. Trauma is an adaptation to a set of circumstances. It is intelligent, and it sits within our body. And until we work at the body level to resolve that, to resolve the parts of us that are separated out in that, then we can't integrate and become whole again. And when we can't integrate and become whole again, that causes us to drive towards certain behaviors that can be dysfunctional, whether that's numbing up in some way, shape, or form, eating, drinking, taking drugs, whatever, or whether it's starting a company to say, "I'll show you, I'll show you that I am enough, and I will save the world, and I will create something on Mars, and I'll take the human race there."
Whether they want to go there or not.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at that sounds preposterous, but actually, if you look at the connections that go back, so the conversation that I want to have is about understanding and normalizing the conversation around mental health, and in particular, the impacts of trauma and how to overcome them, because actually overcoming them is possible and is easy, and there are enough resources out there to help you do that in a way that brings us back into equilibrium. So mental health is a continuum of balance. We're either out of balance or we're in balance, and some days we'll be in balance to some degree, and then other days we'll be out of balance, and it's degrees of, and we slide between the two. And I think that is far more useful than any DSM manual. I think it's far more useful than any set of pills as a long-term course of action to try and deal with what would be described as a psychological disorder. That doesn't negate some of the more serious conditions, some of the more difficult things that there are to treat. But I want that conversation, because if you look at a lot of what's happening in the world, it boils back down to this. We're looking at suicide rates going through the roof. We're looking at all kinds of diagnosis on the increase that are usually tagged with some mental health label. And it's because we choose to view it through an old lens that we don't necessarily make the progress we need to make. There, I'll get off my soapbox. You asked.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's wow. And usually I don't dive into that question, but usually that's the end. But I feel a draw to say, if the global mental, if there were a mental health, I was like, could there even be a metric? How would you measure it? And that's that. So I don't necessarily want to go there, because that's kind of going back to the DSM. How many diagnoses do we have? Do we have this?
But you can measure. You can measure
catalog?
well-being. You can measure well-being. You can measure. You can take proxy measures of habit. And this is the other thing. We're so insistent of, oh, well, this measure needs to be valid and reliable, and this, that, and the other. It's kind of like, how happy are you today on a scale of 1 to 5? Oh, I'm a 5. Great. Okay, that'll do for today. Is that measure valid? No. Is it reliable? No. Not in the scientific sense. Is it a useful indicator of how you're functioning and showing up today? Absolutely.
And yes, and there's a criticism of self-reporting. Maybe I'm just lying because that's cohort. So I'm required to say how happy I am.
Oh,
and like, fine, I'm a 5. Get out of my face.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. And I'm sure plenty of that goes on, and people who game the system and get off my back or whatever it is. And that's why relying, so you have to triangulate. You just cannot work with data. You can be data informed, but what really matters is the conversation. The value is in the conversation. And we don't have enough time for the conversation. It's transactional.
There's not enough time to go fast, really.
No.
Really,
No.
that's we have so little. So we have so little time. We can't afford not to go slow. Maybe that's.
But when we go slow, we go smooth. When we go smooth, we go fast, and that comes straight out of martial arts, and it's true. There's a substantial difference between power and force, and if you want power, then relax. So go slow and relax. And there's people listening to this who'll just go, no. You're talking out of your hat.
Well, those of you who are hearing that and thinking what Paul's just saying, this is not for you. You can extract wherever you want to extract. This is about
take what's useful.
This is what connection is, and that. Okay, I'll say it. It's Vinnie Colaiuta quote. It is thought is the enemy of flow. Right?
It is.
If thinking about what we're playing, if I'm thinking about connect, how am I going to connect with Paul? Like,
yeah, just do it.
Be here, man. Be here.
Indeed.
Is there anything? So thank you. First of all, thank you so much.
Is
there anything? Is there anything on your heart, in your mind, in your spirit that you wanted to bring here that you've not yet had the chance to do?
No, I think I've had an opportunity to share some of my thinking, and I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the precious gift of your time and attention. I'm going to throw you into the penalty box forcefully.
Okay, I'm ready to be thrown.
Goodbye, Paul, and I'll say hello to Paul in a moment. Thank you for the precious gift of your time and attention. Wherever you are, however you are, whenever you are, be well. Be